and New Orleans. We are so proud to be here with you. Yes. This next part of our program, we're going to be really getting into some of the basic fundamental principles of the Black is Back Coalition and our national Black political agenda for self-determination. Because one thing that I have certainly learned in my life, and if there's one thing that I think that these extremely turbulent times are really showing us, is that if you do not have a strong political ideology in which to guide your life, in which to base your principles on, you could find yourself rooting for two genocidal warmongers and talking about the pluses and the benefits of supporting either and thinking that that's a good thing to do. So the importance of not just boots on the ground action, but of having a strong political ideology is so important. And so I just want to go over with you the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination. This is the agenda upon which we built our 19-point platform. In your packet, you should have this. You should have this in your packet. And I'm going to go over with you some points within the declaration. Again, this is like the nuts and bolts of the Black is Back Coalition and what we stand for and what we mean and what becoming a part of this coalition means as well for you. Because, you know, that's one of the things people have to unite around the 19-point platform and this National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination. And when we do endorse candidates, because we will endorse candidates sometimes, they have to endorse every point in this 19-point platform. If they don't get our endorsement, and they gotta mean it. Okay, so the declaration of the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination, a critical moment in our history is upon us. And this was written about 8 years ago, but a critical moment in our history is upon us. In addition to the traditional centuries-long destitution and political repression that has characterized our existence and distorted virtually all of our intra-communal relationships within the U.S., there is now an escalation of police and other white violence directed at our people that demands a coherent response. And we certainly see this in all the wars and the bombs that they drop on Black and brown countries. The entire world is in a state of turmoil. The vast majority of the world's population that experiences poverty and cruelty as normal features of life is in a state of rebellion. Because the world capitalist system owes its existence to the enslavement of our people and colonial domination of much of the world, capitalism rests uneasily on a fault line of oppression. The historical oppression of our people stems from this cruel fact of history. Like most peoples of the world, we trace our current conditions of existence to the birth of the capitalist system at the expense of our happiness and human and material resources. We recognize the escalation of terror against Black people that includes state and popular attacks and police and civilian murder. We understand that the prominent expressions of white nationalism revealed through the electoral process to select a new president of the United States are due to the growth of resistance among oppressed populations of the world and within the US. We recognize that the apparent social peace within the US over the past 35 years has been illusory, a product of the successful brutal assault by the US government on the struggle of Black people for justice and power in the 1960s. Our movement was obstructed by state-imposed repression that included the political murders of important leaders from our community. Among these leaders were Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Fred Hampton, and others. The false sense of social peace during this past period also depended on the disruption of the then developing Black agenda that demanded peace, democracy, and an end to poverty, political oppression, and the acquisition of Black power. And like I said, this agenda was adopted about 8 years ago, and things have escalated and gotten even worse as we now have an open genocide and they're starving people to death, and the United States is directly responsible for that. The U.S. government and its minions of appointed or anointed Black leaders have contributed to a defeatist outlook among our people that reduces our struggle to vain attempts to influence the two major U.S. ruling parties to include the interests and aspirations of our people in the otherwise ruthless, terror-inducing imperialist agenda they normally represent. The United States government's assault on our independent movement for Black political power has created a worldview that promotes the U.S. electoral process as the only viable means of forging and pursuing an agenda favorable to our interests. With our national Black political agenda for self-determination, we claim responsibility for our own future, independent of the Democratic and Republican parties or any other organization or institution external to our community. We are fully aware of the long history of betrayal by our people by both parties and refuse to submit our destiny to a slavish dependency on either of them. As conscious women and men, we are declaring our intent to guarantee a future for our children and generations to come by creating an independent agenda for the progress of our people. This development of our national Black political agenda for self-determination is not an attempt to create a new political party or organization. We call on all organizations currently not affiliated with the Black is Back coalition to join us as a part of a process that will extend the political influence of all of our movements and organizations while preserving the independence of each. The Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations does not attempt to function as a substitute for any existing organization. We simply provide a forum, a space for the overall expansion of our struggle for self-determination beyond the capacity of most individual organizations. We can see the world created by slavery and colonialism collapsing before our eyes. The decline of imperialist white power is visible for the world to see and experience. Not only are the heroic peoples of the Middle East, South America and Asia and Palestine engaging imperialism in heated battles for control of their sovereignty and resources, so also are our people throughout Africa, Haiti, and various other places in the world, including Europe. The struggle against colonialism has breached the citadels of Europe and the US. White people of Europe, of France and Belgium, for example, are living lives with the kind of insecurity that is common in the colonial territories of Africa and the Middle East, from which Europe has extorted lives and resources for centuries. We are taking up the task of developing our national Black agenda for self-determination while in the throes of a maturing resistance that is primarily a response to open police murder of African men, women, and children. In Dallas, Texas, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the actions of Micah Xavier Johnson and Gavin Cosmo Long represent the clearest movement toward an armed response to African murders by the U.S. domestic military occupation forces since 1972, when Mark Essex initiated an attack on the New Orleans Police Department. Like Essex, Johnson and Long briefly exposed the vulnerability and incompetence of U.S. police forces with their attacks on domestic military occupation forces in Dallas, Texas on July 7th and Baton Rouge on July 17th, 2016. The moment is urgent and history requires us to move decisively and without hesitation. It is written within this context that we offer this national Black political agenda for self-determination for discussion and adoption by our people. And within this booklet is the 19 points, and throughout the rest of this conference, We're going to be talking more and more about these 19 points, because many of our working groups were built around them. And the first working group that we have, which will be dealing with the first two of the 19 points, which is honoring Black women and upholding them, and honoring the Black family and upholding the Black family, is Sister Yejide Orunmila. She is the president of the African National Women's Organization, known as ANWO, an international organization founded by the African People's Socialist Party in March 2015 to address the specific oppression that African women face as a result of colonial domination. As president, Yejide is responsible for the international growth of ANWO by creating initiatives that respond to the economic, social conditions and remove African women from revolutionary political life. ANWO has been organizing against the state-sponsored kidnapping of African children and the criminalization of African parents through its campaign, Arrest CPS. Black women and their relationship to the prison system as prisoners and as supporters of incarcerated persons, anti-African dress code policies in schools, and horizontal violence. Sister Yejide Orunmila. Uhuru! Uhuru! Woo!
Uhuru, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Uhuru.
Okay. Uhuru, at least. Oh, can y'all? Okay.
Okay.
Uhuru, comrades, thank
Comrades.
you for the introduction. I'm sorry, I hear echo. Echo. Okay. Uhuru, comrades, thank you. I appreciate the introduction, Sister Lisa, and I just want to appreciate the Black is Back Coalition for having this annual conference, which is so necessary at this present time, as it always has been for African people. The crisis and deepening crisis of imperialism has been an ongoing decline for many, many years, and having the conference at this moment in this year, in this time, I think is really critical for building up the capacity of African people to drive the stake in the coffin of imperialism, of colonialism. And I just want to appreciate comrades Lisa Davis, Vice Chair of the Black is Back Coalition. I want to appreciate our Chairman Omali Shatella, who is the architect of the African People's Socialist Party, the founder, architect of the Black is Back Coalition, and has been an incredible leader and example to myself. I also want to appreciate Belinda Parker Brown, who I know was heavy on the footwork on New Orleans to get this conference together, and it looks like an amazing conference so far. I just want to also share that, I'm sorry that I couldn't be there with comrades. There's a couple of events that conflicted with the coalition meeting this weekend that's happening in the northern region that we are involved in. So I'm in Maryland and actually have to jump off right after I give my presentation to attend another event. But as Comrade Sister Lisa just said, that I am responsible for leading the African National Women's Organization. And I've been the president of that organization since its founding in 2015. And it was created by the African People's Socialist Party to recruit and organize African women into revolutionary political life. And it's I'm speaking to the points 1 and 2 of the National Black Political Agenda, which is African women and African family. And just to talk about more than just honoring African women or honoring the family, it's about fighting for the freedom to live an African self-determination and a life where we are not under the foot of colonialism. And I'm sure that the comrades who are currently watching and are participating in this conference want this. When we organize African women, we are confronted with a number of things, right? We're confronted by a system that continuously beats down our sisters, the poor working class African women who are holding down two, three jobs just to make ends meet, who are constantly inundated with the problem solving around how to live and be and navigate within this oppressive system. We have to worry about housing. We have to worry about we have low paying jobs or no jobs at all. We have to negotiate with the state on many different instances just to get regular things that should be due to us because, of the history that African people have contributed to colonialism, right? Like we need to have we need to have reparations. And we have African women who are fighting in the streets too, defending their families, engaged in, day-to-day struggles with the state, state-sponsored kidnapping of our children. We are victims of police violence. We just have so many things that really speak to our special oppression and some of the responsibilities that we have to, have to juggle on a day-to-day basis. Some people might say that capitalism is working, right? But every indication from that poor and working class African colonized people would show us that it's not working, or it is working. It's working exactly the way that it's supposed to, which is to um, uh, uh, exploit and take like a parasite does from its host. And African people have been the host of parasitic capitalism since they first attacked Africa. When we organize African women, we focus on a few things. And the very pivotal one is that the responsibility of overturning this relationship that we have to colonialism is our responsibility. That colonialism is the central point to which we are fighting around, not patriarchy, not this idea that women have to have an equal place at the table. We are fighting for a world that confirms that African women are leaders and makers and shapers of human history. And we are fighting against a system that will trap us in situations that have made our lives a living hell. I mean, I would be remiss to not even mention the conditions of African women on the continent of Africa, namely some of the ones that have been in the news media, for the past year, the Sudan, DR Congo, and South Africa, where hundreds of thousands of African people have been displaced. Thousands have been murdered, wiped off the face of the planet, and and nothing is stopping it. Capitalism doesn't save it. What saves African people is our capacity to fight for an African future where we do not have to be victims of colonial violence anymore. That means that we have to engage in the protracted struggle to free ourselves from this. And, some of us might be shaking in our boots because Trump's in office and in the United States. And there's also some, if we look at the world, we'll also see like far right leaders in Europe and Asia and things like that. But we should see it as an opportunity because imperialism is in crisis and it's crumbling. And the more dissension that is caused by um, these figureheads that were put in place in a crumbling, dying imperialism, the more opportunities that we have to chop it off at its knee. And African women have to be in place to do that. We know that we are confronted by all of these things that burn us out. Like we have these contradictions because of our special oppression that is tied to our position as a member of the African nation, a colonized African nation, domestically colonized within the borders of the United States, and a history that has long been, violent, very violent, particularly violent for African women. And traumatizing in more ways than one. I won't go into all the details. I think we all can recognize what I'm talking about in terms of forced rape and, the force to produce human life for the colonizer in more ways than one, and having a long history of seeing our children taken from us and used as commodities for the colonial state. Things that have not ended, by the way. Comrade Lisa has talked about, our main campaign, which is the Arrest CPS campaign, which is combating the narrative, but also organizing African people against the colonial institution, Child Protective Services. It may have a different acronym in your state, but we know what it is. It's an institution that penalizes and criminalizes African people, poor working class African people, and kidnaps our children, making them victims of the state, wards of the state. And we engage in this work, and we understand that this is a multi-layered attack. We actually believe it's a part of the counterinsurgency that really isn't talked about, and how this institution came into real federal funding during the attack of the Black Revolution of the 60s, and how it continues to use this narrative of saving children under the guise of saving children to kidnap African people, move African people, dismantle African families, weaken familial ties, and create what they call a pipeline into the prisons and other colonial institutions that are punitive. So we don't have any faith in the system as it is to redeem itself. And we believe that the only way that this system could be redeemable is once it's crushed underneath our foot and replaced with a system that is actually going to promote life and encourage the leadership of all sectors of society, and particularly for African people, allow us to have the leadership over our Africa, and use the resources that we have in our land base to benefit us, no matter where we are on the planet. And our work in the African National Women's Organization says that we do political education, and we do actions, and we do marches and protests, and we have done campaign work around different areas of work, around different areas of contradictions that African women and girls experience. But ultimately, what we're trying to get, African women to understand is that none of what we're fighting for is worth fighting for if we're not fighting to destroy colonialism. And if we're not doing that, then what we can expect is more of the same. It's incredible because if you read books from 100 years ago of fights and contradictions that were happening amongst the Africans at that time, books like Marcus Garvey or W.E.B. Du Bois or some other books of the time, you can see that the same struggles that we're experiencing today are the same struggles that they were dealing with in 100 years ago. And that tells us that colonialism does not advance, capitalism does not advance, that it is keeping African people trapped in a stasis while we're in the cocoon while the parasite sucks on us, right? And it's our responsibility once again to shut that down and cut off the host and cut off us from this parasite. And I very much believe that in our lifetime, in my lifetime, that this can happen. This is what I'm looking forward to the day when we can stand on free African soil, and we are engaged in the process of creating our life in our world that is going to benefit the masses of African people who are suffering today. I believe in this wholeheartedly. Not because I'm an idealist, but because I can see evidence of a future like that through the work that we are engaged in as the African National Women's Organization and the African People's Socialist Party, where we've created liberated territories in St. Louis and St. Petersburg, where we have institutions that determined, that govern ourselves, where we are looking at the contradictions that exist, like the state-sponsored kidnapping, and saying, how can we resolve these problems? How can we take it on and create a community response to child welfare and a community response to healing the African family? So it's not something that we're daydreaming about for a future, but that's something that we are actually actively working on right now. And that tells us that, as if we are really committed to a future where African people are free, we have to start working on that immediately. If you aren't, you need to start working on that immediately. And that means creating dual and contending power projects. And I would just say, join, the African People's Socialist Party or the African National Women's Organization if you're an African woman, and engage in more than just political education and talks, but be a part of the day-to-day. I'm going to say it's like a full-time job, the day-to-day organizing work of transforming our current present situation into something that we can actually be proud of and that we can live under. So, it's really important that it's really important that that African people as a whole also recognize that African women issues, the issues that are specifically tied to our gender, are not the individual or, issues singular to African women. We have to see that African women are African people. And if half of your African population, which are women, are bogged down with the contradictions that colonialism has imposed on us, then what hope do we have of obtaining that freedom? So when we are organizing against mass rape, or if we're organizing against militarism that targets African women, if we're organizing around these different issues that speak to the well-being and welfare of African women, you must know that this is an issue that is important for all African people to be engaged in and fight against. And I truly also hope that when we look at the future of Africa and the future of African people, that we see the unequivocal, not just in name or just some fantasy or idealistic murmurings of equality of African women, but the leadership of African women does not require permission from anybody. We just exert ourselves as leaders. And so in the present, which currently exists, like in the future, the leadership of African women is going to become more and more dominant as we surge forward to free ourselves, because African women are experiencing some of the deepest, most concerning vulnerabilities right now. So we have the most motivation to change whatever it is that we are experiencing. Like, we know it's colonial capitalism, but we know that within that there are specific things that we're dealing with that we don't want to deal with anymore. And so, so I call on African women and not only just join an organization for PE, but to engage in AMWO, so that you can be a part of a global movement of African women that is transforming society, that is looking at, what's happening to African women and coming up with analysis around it, analysis that is not there, that is missing currently. That, what we're getting mostly is this feminist line around patriarchy or trying to sit at the table, or even if we're addressing some of the poor and working class issues of African women, they are not talking about the revolution or tying it or connecting it to the struggle for African people to be free. And that's going to be critical. That is critical in our fight as African people. And I would, recommend that all African, so many things happening, that all African people be engaged in that struggle. Sorry, dismiss. Okay, that was my timer. But I just want to thank once again, comrades, for allowing me to speak, and to really just salute the Black is Back Coalition annual conference and the comrades on the ground who are making it happen. I also want to appreciate all of the speakers before me. I really appreciated what they said. And, this all just goes to speak to the desire, the will for African people to actually to get out of this thing. And I'm very confident in our ability to do that. So Uhuru comrades, thank you so much, Uhuru.
Okay. Our next panel that we're going to be having is going to deal with what's going on in New Orleans. And starting off with leading that panel discussion, we will have our warrior organizer, Sister Belinda Parker Brown. And I'm trying to, please bear with me 1 second. Minister Belinda Parker Brown. She is an educator, researcher, life specialist, community organizer, and motivational speaker who has spent the majority of her career enhancing the potential of others. Diverse audiences have benefited greatly and responded enthusiastically to Ms. Parker Brown's wealth of experience. Mrs. Parker Brown is President and Chief Executive Officer of Louisiana United International. I got to say it like that every time I say it. The LUI is a bipartisan social justice organization whose mission is to champion the protection of human rights, including the civil, constitutional, and social rights that are all commonly trampled on in today's world. The LUI speaks for the person or group that cannot speak for themselves and has a proven track record all across the state of Louisiana. Mrs. Parker Brown co-hosted a talk show host, a force for justice, and is a naturally recognized advocate. It gives me great honor to welcome up my sister in spirit and everything. She is a strong revolutionary person. We got 15 minutes, and then we will bring on other people from New Orleans. Uhuru. Uhuru.
I think that Miss Foster, me and her sharing that time. Miss Foster, I'm sharing that time with her.
You get 15 minutes to make it right here. Okay. Yeah, she's on.
Okay. All right. You need to come up with me. Yes, you're gonna. Uhuru. Before we bring on Mrs. Foster, I want to share something with you all. And something that I had been meditating on when we came up with the topic for this conference was don't agonize, organize. And I want to say when I first came, returned home, this is home for me. I grew up here and left at an early age. I grew up right on Tupelo Street in Grand Traverse. That's the Ninth Ward. And my mom and dad separated and my mom relocated to Michigan. So I want to share this with you because when I left here, I said, I would never, ever live in Louisiana. And don't say never, because the Lord dealt with me to get my affairs in order and come back home in 2007. That was right after Katrina, when I did everything in my power to rescue my family members from the storm. And a lot of them didn't want to leave. A lot of them did not leave. And as of this day, I still don't know where some of my loved ones are, family members are. So I know that this is the 20th anniversary of Katrina, but God dealt with me in 2007 to come home and help my people. And I'm telling you, I hit the ground, and to be here in Louisiana and to see some of the things that were still happening here, it was sickening. It was heartbreaking. So I'm here, and there's no place like home. And that is why I believe that this is the boiling point. Right here in this state is ground zero for what Black is Back Coalition is all about. And a lot of these great presentations that you have heard so far is all about. Our national political agenda for self-determination, I believe within my spirit that it should start right here, right now. And that Louisiana is going to be the spotlight for the whole world to see what would happen when people unite and come together. So I want to share this with you because in California, there is a, I'm going to share a story with you. And I want to say that Maya Angelou, you know, I want to quote from her, you know, one of her famous quotes is that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget the way you made them feel. I want y'all to let that sit right there for a moment. And I want to share this story with you, something that's burning in my heart about don't agonize, organize, and the power of unity. In California, there's a magnificent redwood trees that can reach a height of 350 feet and live for 2,000 years. They're incredibly resilient. You know, that was said during our time of Katrina, how resilient we were to come back and restore and rebuild our families. Resilient is a powerful word. Withstanding strong winds, storms, and pests that take others' trees down. What's interesting is that their roots are only 6 to 12 feet deep. The only way the shallow roots can hold up these massive trees is that the roots spread out 100 feet and intertwine with other redwood roots. Listen to me. They spread out 100 feet and they intertwine with other redwood trees against the storm, against the whole redwood forest. It's linked together and stand strong. Now, I know some of you out here, you're wondering about the fact that, you know, we've been told that, you know, Black people, you know, they can't trust each other. They don't, they'll never come together. We don't get along, you know, it's always constantly, you know, bickering and disunity, and we all separated and divided, you know, me, my foe, and no more, what's in it for me, you know, how I'm gonna get paid. You know, I know y'all done heard those stories before, you know, about us talking about each other. Then we also done seen how people that look like us, that's been hand paid, I mean, that been picked and paid to represent us, but they're not for us. They look like us, but they got price tags hanging on them. They for sale. We vote these people in office. They get out, they rally our vote. We put them in office. They jump up and down and say, you know, hooray, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But as soon as they get in office, we know what happened. We can't even get a phone call. We knock on their door. We can't even get a visit. They don't even talk to us. Matter of fact, they changed their number. Oh, here, you can have my cell phone number, but as soon as they get in office, they get a new number. I'm not making this up. We know it's true. So I want Ms. Foster to come because we're talking about the power of unity. We're talking about what happens when we all unite and come together and we refuse to be denied. We're talking about that we have been created to rule and reign and take dominion over everything. We're talking about what is it that we are not doing that we should have been doing that we better do. And the time that we're in right now is our opportune time to do what we need to be doing, not what they doing, because everybody talking about, you know, what they doing. You know, Trump doing this, Biden did that, you know, the Democrats, the Republican, the black, the white, you know, all of that. It's not about what they are doing. We're saying that everybody is not going to unite with us. We have some freedom, I want to say it right, freedom-loving white people. Freedom-loving white people that will unite with what we're talking about. Listen, and you're going to hear from some of those people here today because we're serious about building what it is we need to be building for our self-determination, for the future to come, for our generations. And I want to say this, you know, when the storm comes, and it will come because somebody said it in here today, how we have to, once we win, because we gonna win. And once we build it, because we're going to build it, I just bought up 20 acres of land here about a couple months ago. We gonna build it. I got a building over here in Chalmette that was given to me. We gonna build it. But then how are we going to defend it? Because you know what? They never intend for us to have anything. Never. And so we done made up in our minds that we're not going to run to the fox that's guarding the hen house, whining and crying and begging them for anything, because we know they never intended for us to have nothing in the first place. So we saying that that day is over. So when the storm comes, what would have normally blew you over? If you were alone, you can't move. If you're alone, you can't move when the storm comes. Nobody coming to get you. You're on top of the roof. No boat. Matter of fact, if the boat's in sight, they might pass you by like they did those people during Katrina. But I'm here to say, we're going to weather the storm. We're going to stand together. We're going to unite. And that's where the power is at. Would you come, Ms. Foster, and tell your story? Because it's very important that she knows when she leaves this building here today that she's not alone. And she have been a tremendous organizer to unite and bring people together to help her fight her cause. So go right ahead. Thank you, sister.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabrina Foster, and I want to thank Black is Back for inviting me here. And I'm so happy I came because each time I come to these events, I hear other people speak and I have an aha moment. And before I tell you my story, which I'm going to make it quick, I just want to talk about what some of you have said already. And I would like to start with Chairman Omali Ashitela. He says it's the struggle against colonialism is what killed Malcolm, Martin, the Black Panthers. It also killed my son. But I'm going to talk about Glenn Foster Jr. And before I talk about him, look him up. Glenn Foster Jr. He's all over the internet. And then Yejide, okay. She says we have people in the street fighting for our rights. Well, yesterday I was in Alabama. There's a town called Homewood, Alabama, right outside of Birmingham. I was fighting for the rights not only for Glenn Foster Jr., who was also murdered in Pickens County, Alabama, but there's a young man who was recently killed in Homewood. His name was Jamari Peoples. So we went to rally because we had demands about what happened and show the video. They claimed Jamari had a gun, but Jamari's last words were, "I only have a cell phone in my hand." But they want to say he had a gun, right? But they don't want to show us what actually happened. So we rallied. The police did handcuff 6 of our people, put them in jail. Yeah, but that's okay. We still survived. We continued. And last but not least, Yejide also said they will continue to fight back, meaning the white folks, because they want what they want us back. So no matter how often we fight for our rights, they're going to keep fighting. They're going to keep coming back at us, and that's what they're doing. She says we should have these oh no, she didn't say that, but I said this. We should have these conversations in the elementary schools, in the high schools. We shouldn't wait until they come to college and take social justice classes with Dr. Ishmael and others. We need to be teaching them these things at home. And the schools should allow people like us to come in and teach them and to tell them our stories. So this is my story. I'm from Chicago. My son was a brilliant young man. He never played football until he got into high school. He's a quick learner. He's a tall, handsome man. And one of the coaches says to him, "You ought to be playing football." He says, "Well, I tried out, but you all didn't select me." But freshman year, sophomore year, he played varsity. He learned the codes and everything he learned how to play the game very well, and he did a good job. He went to high school at Mount Carmel High School in Chicago. He went to the University of Illinois, played football, and then he played for the New Orleans Saints, 2013 through 2015. Glenn was injured, decided to play with his kids instead of playing football, started a business here, very successful business. If you go to Mr. Wolf's Coffee and Espresso, 900 Camp Street, he's the co-owner of Mr. Wolf's Coffee. The owner now is Wayne. That was his partner. His biggest business was a granite business. He didn't know anything about granite, but he learned. He had a very successful, and still have it, a granite business called Slag, Southern LA Granite. His wife now runs it. But my husband and I and my daughter, we're still here as well. But what happened to Glenn, he was traveling on business to Atlanta, December 6, 2021. All right. They pulled him over for a minor traffic violation. 3 days later, my son was murdered, not only by the sheriff, but 5 of his deputies. Okay. So back to, it's a struggle against colonialism. It's what killed Malcolm. It killed Glenn. They want to kill us. especially if we have the audacity, because my son had the audacity to be smart. He had the audacity to be a Black man, because he was. And it exuded no matter what he said or did. You can see that was a grown man who had a very good upbringing. And people were very proud of him. But yet, again, it's the struggle against colonialism. That's what killed him and many more people like him. It's unfortunate that that was my only son. All I can do is tell his story and share the love that we all have for Glenn. Many people here in New Orleans loved him. He was a kind, gentle guy. He was the type of guy that would give you advice. He was a motivational person. And they knew his spirit, but he was too Black like that. They didn't want him. So I just want to thank everyone for listening to my story. Please look up Mr. Glenn Foster Jr., former Saints player. If you have any questions, I'm Sabrina Foster. And one more thing, because of Glenn, I now have a journey. I'm the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Grassroots, NOLA. I am definitely on a journey, and a war is about to start because I'm not going to give up. So I want to thank you all very much for listening to me. Have a great day.
Uhuru, I think that is our time. But I also want to say that she's a dynamic person, and she have been doing some very powerful, significant organizing. She was also a help and support, well, great help and support with us putting together this conference and calling on different comrades and supporters as well. You know, I just want to say that she still don't know what happened, the real truth about what happened to her son. She's still waiting, okay, on silver suits and all of this kind of stuff, you know. I got, that's one of the things that Louisiana United International. You can't hear me, but y'all can hear me. Thank you, my brother. So, Lisa, that is the end of our presentation. I just wanted to encourage people to join up with Louisiana United International, which is a powerful civil constitutional human rights organization that exposed the injustice in the criminal justice system and allow victims to tell their stories, just like you just heard from Miss Sabrina Foster, and there's so many stories like that. I had a young lady, I got to share this, come and told me that she was sleeping with the judge to get a deal. the sheriff, Jack Strain, that we were successfully getting indicted and put in prison, and he gonna be there for the rest of his life because he was running a godforsaken hellhole jail where people were being raped and beat, and some of them by him at the boom boom party. That he'll make them trustees and take them to his house and feed them, and corrupt sheriff that had been in office for over 3 decades. But we're here to say, when we vote them in, we're going to organize and we're going to vote them out. Listen to me, people. That's the power of unity. We will vote them in, and if they get in office and don't do right by us, we're going to vote them out. Uhuru. You want this?
I might need it. You never can tell. Can you all hear me online? Okay. Next, we're going to have Mr. Earl Higgins, and then after we have Mr. Earl Higgins, we're going to have the panel by the students, and then we're going to come back to the rest of the folks in New Orleans because we really want to hear you. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Little revision. We're going to go with Tony Jones. Hold on a second, a moment, please. You guys have to forgive me while I try to. I'm so sorry, you all. I don't want to take up any more time. Tony Jones, could you please come up? Tony Jones is a. I'm sorry. What did? Okay, Tony is a very powerful organizer in Louisiana, and Tony will be giving us some insight in terms of the battle that Tony is facing. I know that Tony was wrongfully arrested, harassed, while he also was while Tony was at a pro-Palestine vigil or rally, and the police tried to brutalize one of the students, and Tony interceded to make it stop, and they came after Tony. And Tony is facing charges. I know Tony is appealing those charges. And where did Tony go?
While we're waiting on Tony, I would like to just add to my story about Glenn Foster Jr. They said that Glenn died of cardiovascular disease. He was 31 years of age, healthy, very healthy, good, fit, everything. But we had a second autopsy, and the autopsy indicated that he was tortured, strangled, tased to death. So I just want to let you know, it's their scenario that we hear all the time, right? But it's up to us to get the truth out. Okay, so I just wanted to add that story about my son. Again, Glenn Foster Jr. is his name.
Thank you. Tony, I was giving you a nice introduction. I have your bio somewhere here. My computer's not pulling it up. So, but a strong community activist. Tony also was involved in a situation where he was at a pro-Palestine rally, the same way I was, and he saw the Tony saw the police start to brutalize someone, the students. And so Tony interceded and they came after Tony. And you're currently fighting that case now, correct?
Appeals, yeah.
Yes.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Hi, everybody. My name's Tony Jones. I'm chair of a local organization called New Orleans for Community Oversight of Police. To kind of explain what we do, you know, we're here talking about revolution, and Malcolm said that revolution is about land always. It's always about land. It's about who controls what happens in the land. If you go to the French people's land, you know, you're under the French man's law. If you go to the German people's land, you're under the German people's law. But when you're in Black land here in our own nation, we're not under Black people's law. We are under the law of white people, even where we are the majority. We are not under our own law. We are under the law of white people. And so my organization, New Orleans for Community Oversight of Police, our contribution to the Black Revolution is to say that on Black land, we will have Black community control over the police. You know, we'll get justice for these families, and we'll get control over our police force. And we've been fighting our campaign since the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse in late 2021. We have information at our table outside if you'd like to sign our petition. We've been petitioning for years now. We also have a town hall that we're going to do on September 25th, where we are inviting families who have been directly impacted by this oppressive system, oppressive policing system, and we'll have these families confront the candidates currently running for office, and we'll hold them to account for what they do and what they don't do to hold these police accountable. Also, we in New Orleans are part of a national coalition called the National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. We just made our 50th anniversary 2 years ago. We're having another conference in Chicago in November on the 14th and 15th. We have chapters fighting for community control of the police, just like we are in New Orleans, from all over the nation, West Coast, East Coast, North to South, from Orlando to Seattle to New York, all over the place. If you'd like, you can talk to me about what the fight for police accountability looks like in New Orleans at the table. And if you're interested in hearing more about our conference and how, you know, this is a nationwide struggle, I want to talk to y'all about that as well, because I got a registration link, and I'd love to see more of our vibrant fighters coming together united in rooms just like this. But I'm not gonna grandstand and do a speech. That's just what we have going on in New Orleans, and you know, I would love to connect more deeply with everyone.
Our next presenter is Earl Higgins. He is with the Voice of the Experienced, known as VOTE. And VOTE is a grassroots organization founded and run by formerly incarcerated people and their families and allies. They build power through community organizing, police advocacy, and civil engagement. Earl Higgins himself was once incarcerated at Angola, and while serving time, became committed to becoming an active participant in the policies and decisions influencing society today. Earl Higgins. Oh, you're in the room. You have 5 minutes? Yes. That one.
How y'all doing? Y'all can hear me? Can y'all hear me? Hello, y'all can hear me? Can y'all hear me? Yeah, my name's Earl Higgins. Like you said, I started on the likeliest places in prison. I was actually started over a microwave. They had taken the microwave off of our tier, and I just wanted some hot coffee while I was reading, you know, my case over. And I got frustrated with the guys in the dome talking about what they would do if the powers to be would ever show up. And out of frustration, like most of us, we get involved with this work. It was out of frustration of hearing what I would do. And I you know, not not any concern about what my consequences would be personally. I just wanted some clarity on what was policy as it relates to taking the microwave from all of us based on one individual that broke whatever rule they said was supposed to be the rule. And it was a learning experience for me personally that it was so potent for me. And I didn't know I was organizing at the time. I didn't know this. I walked up to the bars. The assistant warden, he's standing there. All the guys, they're standing like earshot from him. And they just were talking about what they would say to the person. And I was sitting on my locker, drinking my coffee that I had let the water run long enough where it could get at least warm enough to have a nice, tasteable cup of coffee while I read my law. And so I look, and I'm like, this what I'm saying to myself. And so I walk up to the bars, and as diplomatically as I could be, I asked for some clarity. What's the policy for taking this? Long story short, I got threatened with the blocks. Okay. But we need some clarity, sir. This is at the time when I was still using the sir to authority. I don't do it no more. I just, excuse me. Whatever they officer, I don't use sir anymore. But anyway, threatened me with the blocks. Cool with that. But once I opened my mouth, it gave the other guys, they started to chime in. They were like, yeah, because then, I believe they in their mind, they were like, wait a minute, this brother here is a little bit stronger than what I'm giving him. And the other guys, when they started to talk, they pulled me off of the chair. We came back with the microwave. We came back with the microwave all because one person had the courage to challenge the authority. That was on the other side of the bars. It was somewhat of a spiritual experience for me because that was freedom for me. That was freedom in that moment. And come home, I had no idea that vote existed. And when I found out there was a bunch of other formerly incarcerated people that started an organization in prison, I'm like, wait a minute, it's a no-brainer for me. And I'm more of a behind the scenes type of person. I'm more like, I like to read, research to find out what they know so I can take what we know and get some solutions to whatever shit that they are proposing to us. I'm more of that type of person. But currently right now, we're working on more policy. We like to say our expertise is in policy because one thing I've come to realize is this: as much as it's okay to get in their face and say what we want, okay, they only understand the power of the pen. Legislation, change legislation. You change the legislation, you gain power and you gain momentum and once you start changing legislation. In my opinion, you're working with something. But right now we're working on protective class for formerly incarcerated people, fair hiring, where we are demanding that they don't discriminate against people that's coming home from prison to get jobs. And we're tackling more budget stuff. We're actually tying in work around. If we're going to advocate for people to have more jobs, you got to be a part of crafting, being part of the budget aspect to say, hey, these dollars are going to go here to provide for those people. But that's something we'll be working on currently. My time is up. I have some flyers to let y'all know some other stuff that we're doing and what we're all about. So holler at me.
Come on, Professor. I can introduce you. Right. Yeah. Well, we just want to introduce him. Come on, Professor. Okay, we're going to get ready for our student panel that I am very excited about. The professor got to go chase him down. You know how it is with our young people. I just want to say that they're going to have some dynamic topics here that we're ready for. Students, we're ready for you all. Come on up. I have a list of names, Professor. What you want to say, Lisa, about the student? Yeah, we have 30 minutes for this segment, and I'm looking forward to their panel because I was looking over some of their discussion topics. They got some, it says that the Dillard University Center for Racial Justice, one of their topics are the role that economic play in Black liberation. Uhuru. Victoria. Y'all come on. Here they come. Professor, you want to introduce the class? We're going to have the professor say a little bit about you all and why y'all chose this topic. That's what I'm most interested in. We was hoping that Oliver Thomas, one of the candidates for mayor, and also the mayor of Bogalusa was going to be here to join us, but apparently they may come in, pop in at any moment, but I think you guys going to handle it from here. Go ahead, Professor. Tell us about the students.
Okay, thank you. Well, good afternoon. And again, I haven't had a chance to speak to the group in large. I was attending a funeral this morning. One of my very good friends passed away, so I was in Baton Rouge, but it's a pleasure to be here with you all. I was 2 years ago, I guess I met Belinda and I met Miss Foster. Not the circumstances you would want to meet people in, but again, with any negative thing that happens, sometimes a positive comes out of it as well. And so I've grown to work with Miss Foster, gotten to know her, really gotten to know Belinda very well over this last year as we worked on several different activities, as we move forward to work on other functions. So it's been a blessing. And she shared with me, months ago about this conference and the work that you all do. And of course, it's very much aligned to what we do here at the Center for Racial Justice. Part of our mission is to focus on social, racial, and ethnic, issues. And, and we take this very seriously. When the university wanted to do something like this, I was sort of shocked. Usually, we kind of in these confines of these universities, they talk a talk, but they don't really walk the walk. And so, and to my surprise, they were very serious. Okay, we want to do these murders, this George Floyd and Greg Foster. What is this? And then when we had a little discussion with the board of trustees, it said well, we need to get more active. We just sit in these universities and we're supposed to be a mission of change, but how are we doing it? And I even said, well, I published 35 books and all these. What am I doing? Who am I doing this for? Who's this? It's all great. I'm in print, but am I impacting any change? And I said, this is an opportunity now. And to make us a small difference. I don't, in a university, you're still confined within the confines of make sure your students are safe and the things that you're in conducting in, but still being engaged. And thankfully, as we got started, we really took off very quickly, and our students have been a big part of the Center for Racial Justice and the research, the presentations, the work that they're doing out there with the internships, et cetera. And that's what we really wanted, and they've gotten to know people and I see the passion. Young people just want to be guided, just want to see the passion, just somebody to guide them. And when I call upon them, they run. They want to be involved. Just tell us where we need to be, doctors, but what else is going on that we can be engaged in? Last week, we were at a function with the Sheriff's Forum. Our students took the lead. They were asking the Q&A questions. Hey, what's going on? What are you going to do here? What are you going to do there? And so that's what you want to see, young people being engaged. And so I'm very proud that you all had, asked the Center for Racial Justice to be a part of this and to share. And as we've been preparing for this the last couple of months, I've had an opportunity to hopefully get to know some of you and maybe, further so after this conference. It's all about networking for me. And so when I'm having these types of things, yes, we're having a conference. There's also an opportunity for me to meet each and every one of you and see where we can kind of align our values and be able to move forward. And so, again, this fight will continue to go on long after we're gone. It's one of those things that it's just endless, and we got to keep doing it. And Belinda said something in her presentation earlier that struck me. I get confused one event to the next. I don't know, it was Noel 360 or whatever. And somebody was saying at the presentation, most of the leaders in the city are minorities. And so it's not to say that white people are doing this or whatever. How are our minority leaders helping us? And it got us really kind of critical discussion around that. And so we got to look at each other, look at everybody, and how are we making a difference? Not talk to talk, but again, we get in the office and what are we doing? How are you making change? And show me how the change is being made so I can see the production. And so, again, our future leaders are here. I'm very proud of them. This past summer, I was able to go to 3 graduations. I had a student graduate from law school at Harvard, student got a PhD in social work at LSU, a law student at Southern Law. And so these are our next generation. They're going to go on to law school and grad school and really be, while I'm sitting in my bed retired, I'll be calling upon them and seeing what wonderful things that they're going to be doing. So, again, I appreciate, Belinda, suggesting that we have a student panel, getting the students involved. And again, didn't take me long to find the students and said, yes, not this, but we want to be involved in a panel discussion. And so the title of our panel this afternoon, our 30-minute panel, is The Role That Economics Play in Black Liberation. And our moderator is Ms. Paris Atku from Dillard University. Okay. And then I'm going to have you introduce your colleagues. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then tell us a little bit about your major and et cetera, just a little bit about yourself, and then we can get started. Do you want the moderator needs to come? Okay. All right. So why don't you come forward?
Okay. Awesome. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, good. This works. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Praise Akodu. I am a junior psychology major from Prince George's County, Maryland, and I serve as the Chief Justice of our Student Government Association. So here are my colleagues, Tatiana Washington, as well as Victoria Bird. I'll allow them to introduce themselves briefly, their majors, what they do on campus, and before we head into our panel discussion. Good evening. Can y'all hear me? Good evening, you guys. My name is Tatiana Washington. I'm a graduating senior, criminal justice major with a minor in social work. I serve on the Student Government Association here at Dillard with the 90th administration as the social media coordinator.
Thank you so much. How y'all doing today? My name is Victoria Bird. I am a junior mass communication major, psychology minor, and I serve as the Student Government Association's junior class representative.
All right. So our topic for today is the role that economics plays in Black liberation. Oftentimes when we speak about the fight for liberation as Black people, economics and having our own and keeping the Black dollar strong within the Black community is a topic that often comes up, especially with historical things such as Black Wall Street and Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Rosewood, and these prosperous economic Black hubs that were, destroyed. Oftentimes, Black economic power is seen as a threat to the white supremacist power structure. So today, me and my colleagues will be discussing those things. So our first question is, what does true economic freedom look like for the Black community?
I would say true economic freedom looks like, economic freedom looks like closing the wealth gap with race, I feel like that is a major factor in being able to race holding us back in a lot of things, and it being at the center of everything that we do. And when we tend to walk into places, that's the first thing that people see. Our skin tone is what defines us, who we are as Black individuals. So I feel like that's a great start to being able to close that gap.
I would say that it's rooted in education as well. I would say equal and equitable education bring better economic freedom. To compare to what Praise was saying earlier about how whenever we build things for ourselves, they get tore down, that can be related back to HBCUs. I know I saw something informative about how an HBCU in Baker, Louisiana, Leland University, I believe that's what it's called, and how it was something that was created for Black students during the Jim Crow era, if I'm not mistaken, and I had to go out of business and close its doors in the 1960s because of pressure from white civilization, as well as lack of economic stability. And I feel as though if we were to get that, as far as for different HBCUs to have that same economic hold and stability, like schools like Harvard or Columbia or things like that, then we will have economic freedoms.
Just to piggyback more off what she said regarding HBCUs, I feel like as students at HBCUs, I feel like that's just like a common factor because, being able to be at your HBCU, being able to, being welcomed into your HBCU, I feel like that's a huge factor in the things that we do, and just knowing that we have the option to choose a HBCU, and it's being a very broad, and us being very accepted into everybody who comes into our HBCU. Because here at Dillard, we have all students here at our HBCU, and it doesn't change the fact that we are a HBCU because we still stand for our mission and everything like that. So I feel like it's not anything that's taken away from us.
Those are all very wonderful responses. I'm so sorry. Those are all very wonderful responses. I'm so sorry. When we speak about economic power, our Black entrepreneurs play a very important role in this community. The coming up of the Black businesses, the building the wealth, the striving to keep that wealth within the community. How can Black businesses aid in this fight for economic liberation?
I'll go first with that. I personally don't have my own business. I'm not an entrepreneur, but I know a multitude of people who are. Entrepreneurs. I know my best friend, she has her own crochet business. I know a lot of people and students on campus do hair and different things of that nature. So I feel in order to give back to the community and help us with that economic freedom, they could use some of their proceeds not only to benefit themselves, but to also pour into the communities as well.
As a business owner, I feel like I can speak on this topic because, the support comes from all over. I do hair, so not only does just Black people book with me, there have been, white people who have asked, do I offer this service or anything like that? And it's like, building your brand also makes longer connections, not only because, this is what I do and I'm just trying to make a profit off of it, but also pour back into your community, pour back into where you came from, because that's where it all started. In all honesty, they have to look back at your roots and where you come from when doing things like that.
And on the topic of pouring Black, how does us as Black people wanting to support businesses, Black businesses, trying to buy Black, keep the Black dollar strong in the community, how can this also help us lead to a more collective sense of liberation? I guess like the question is more so asking, how can we as a community strive for economic liberation while also staying together?
That's a good question. I would honestly say you have to you have to root that space within the community. You have to be able to make sure that you're in a strong foundation, make sure that you're being able to pour out what you're getting back, because it's like when people get your services, they're pouring back into your business. So when you're offering those services and you're going out into your community wanting that support, you have to also remember, I have to be able to relate from their standpoint. I have to be able to grasp what they're going through and grasp how I came from this certain place and being able to grow and bring them along with you in that growth process.
I like your answer. I'd personally say that it would come from being selfless. In order to foster a community, you have to think about other people and want to pour into other people as much as you pour into yourself. And I also believe that nowadays there's a lack of inconveniencing yourself to support other people and other people that you care about. And that is also rooted in selflessness. So I believe that selflessness is the way to bridge our community together as well as pour into the Black dollar.
Another thing that comes with when we talk about building generational wealth, keeping our Black money in the Black community, is a lot of the time home ownership and having land. And, you know, historically with things like redlining and even gerrymandering, even Black soldiers not being able to use their GI Bills when they came home to purchase homes in the suburbs, or being barred from using their GI Bills. How do you think home ownership, as well as the lack of access to the funding to get home ownership, has affected the Black liberation movement?
I'll go first in that. You see a lot of young people and a lot of content focused around like, oh, I got my first apartment. Oh, I've renting and everything like that. And renting is just paying another person, and most likely a white person or someone who's not Black, because they don't own those buildings. And so I feel it's important to educate and support young people in getting houses and finding different programs to help them, because most of them are just working to pay somebody else so they have a home.
I agree with what you're saying, because when you look on the corners of the street, most of what you see is Black homeless people. It's those who didn't have the proper resources, or you have those veterans who didn't have the proper resources when coming back home, and now they're left on the streets and they don't have the right support systems. And just how, and I'm not sure if anybody's seen, but in DC, where Trump had all the homeless people off the street, but it's like, okay, now where are they going? You're putting them into prisons, overcrowded shelters, and all of those things. And it's like, how is that helping? Because most of them have, you know, mental health issues and don't want to be confined to that small space, or not confined to these unordinary rules that they have. And it's like, yes, you're making it seem like you're trying to help them, but who is that really benefiting when it's really hurting those in the Black community? It's really hurting those Black individuals.
And to speak on the shelters, a lot of those shelters are very limited on space, and they don't have a lot of resources to help those kinds of people. And they also don't have a lot of training as well. So it's just...
Yeah, I think it's more than just putting them into a shelter. It's because it's like, you're not thinking about their mental health. And some people may say, okay, well, no one was thinking about their mental health when they were on the streets, or they didn't have these resources on the streets. But it's like, they were comfortable. And, you know, I'm not trying to normalize it, but that's their normal. And there's other ways to go about helping them, rather than, oh, I'm going to stuff them in a shelter and now they're overcrowded, the loud noises. Whereas if they were out being able to have their freedom, they're able to navigate things how they desire to navigate things, instead of being so confined to rules and confined to policies that are in place to help people like them.
Thank you. Wonderful answers. Still on the topic of like home ownership and that lack of access, how do you think we as Black people can like kind of close that gap. Like resources like Black-owned banks who may give out loans to Black people to purchase homes in these areas, or it could be as simple as, I know I've seen where groups of Black people have come together, they've purchased acres of land and have said we're building a community for ourselves, and it's going to be single family homes, there'll be grocery stores, there'll be schools. Do you think we have to, I don't know how to phrase this properly, do you think we'll have to, I don't know, self-isolate or like move? Do you think we'll have to separate ourselves from general civilization in order to really have something of our own that we call our own?
You could.
I could kind of start with that question. I feel like we shouldn't have to, but I feel like that's something that we would have to do, being that we want to be able to, like you said, have something to call our own. And I don't think we've ever had something we've been able to say, this is Black built, like this is something that has been rooted in the Black community and it has not shifted anywhere else. So I feel like being able to have our own communities, or for example, a community designated for those who are homeless and who don't have the resources to be able to survive on a daily basis, I feel as though being able to, I guess you can say, isolate, and being able to venture off and start our own and being able to have the proper resources. And I feel like it starts there, having the proper resources and being able to, do things the proper way so it won't be ripped away from us. Because I feel like, they think we're stupid. That's what they want us to do. They're shifting the education and they're shifting a lot of those things. So they want us to be able to be at the bottom of the barrel and not use our common knowledge or, what once was in the textbooks to be able to grow and prosper and have something to call our own.
Yes, I also agree that isolation will probably have to be necessary, even though it's not really what people would like to do. Because, going back to what you first said about Tulsa, they had their own community and everything like that, but it was burned down to the ground. And so we would hate for something like that to happen again as we're trying to build different communities for ourselves, because white people are doing that now. I don't know where, but I know there's a town somewhere where they built their own community and said, this is for white people only. Mm-hmm. And no, the government hasn't said anything about it, hasn't done anything about it, hasn't criticized anyone about it. But when it comes to us, it's different.
I feel like when Black people do something, there's always red flags to be raised. Mm-hmm. Whereas if a white man was to do something, it's okay. It's automatically acceptable. Although, do you not see how many Black people that's hurting in the deep end? Like, I feel like they kind of look at it as a surface level. Oh, well, the white man has more education, but it's like, okay, well, this Black woman also has a good education, mm-hmm. but you're not taking to grasp, oh, just because of her skin color, she's dumb, she's this, she's that. But it's like, we're just as smart as the next person, no matter the skin tone. We have just as much knowledge, just as many resources. But it's like, I feel Black people tend to be scared to put up that fight and stand for what we should believe in and what's right for us, because they're scared of, oh, who's going to deny us or who's going to look at us or turn their eye to us. But it doesn't matter. We have to stand up for ourselves and stand up for what's right, because to being able to build and pour into the Black community.
I would argue also that we're not just as good, but better.
Honestly.
I would argue that we're better and that they try to belittle us by taking different things away, but we still prosper and we still move forward because we are better.
Yes. Speaking of, taking things away as a jumping off point, how do you think, what policies do you think what policies and changes in places of power would you think benefit the Black community the most? Like, I know things like the DEI initiatives and like taking those things away, changing history, you know, the big beautiful bill, which was recently passed, which a lot of the things in that
was crazy.
Very crazy. With a name like the big beautiful bill, there's nothing beautiful about it.
Nothing beautiful about it.
Nothing beautiful at all. And what policy changes, like if you were president or you were or a lawmaker right now in Washington, D.C., what policies and changes would you enact to better help, or that would be in the best interest of the Black community?
Well, I mean, if we were to start off, we can kind of start from where we are now with the big, beautiful bill, because it's affecting so many people with their income, the resources, the food stamps, like the basic necessities that you see needed in the Black community. Basically, you know, those food stamps, the housing that the Black community needs, because we are those who are grasping to that more. And it's just like, it's slowly being ripped from under us piece by piece. Or if you was to take a look at the DEI and how, I'm not sure if anybody's seen, but the owner of Target, he was briefly made a statement about stepping down and how the DEI has, you know, took a shift in a direction that they weren't expecting. But it's like the damage is already done. Mm-hmm. So, and I feel like they tend to do that when, well, I'm not going to say often, but they look for the Black people to be okay with the things that they're doing. But, you know, when people stop shopping at Target and all that, you see, we were the ones shopping at Target. We were the ones keeping y'all in business. And you think, oh, because now y'all making all these changes, oh, we need y'all. No, we gonna take it. We going to Aldi's. We going to Walmart. We taking our business where it is wanted. So they tend to like think what's the word?
They don't appreciate us until they
they're not we're taken for granted. And it's just like, how you may think you're affecting us in a big way. Let me show you how we can affect your business. Let me show you what we can do and how much power we have. Yes. Literally, like.
Yeah.
I would say, as far as laws, I would try and make it easier and more equitable for us to get more resources. As far as like back to the big and beautiful bill, that nonsense. The programs like SNAP and Section 8 and all those things, those were already restricted. Mm-hmm. Those were already really hard for Black people to get into, and now it's even harder. And so I would try and make laws that will be easy and more equitable for those to get those resources, as well as making it illegal or limiting how people can gerrymander or redline different people, because that takes away opportunities and abilities for us to grow.
We were briefly talking about SNAP benefits and how it has affected those in the Black community in my social work class this past week. And we were reading, it was this study on how they changed the colors of SNAP cards. And, you know, SNAP cards are typically cards that look like a regular bank card. It kind of blends in with everything. And the lady, she was trying to get SNAP benefits, and the lady was kind of like in denial of it. And it was because she had just watched a lady who was in the store. Her card had declined. And it's not that it declined, it's because it was a new card. It wasn't activated. And the cashier was kind of like, oh, well, you don't have the money to afford it. And she was like making it loud. And it's like, well, how don't you know that I have the money to afford it? And you are just being so loud about it. But it makes people run away from those resources when they're actually needed. You don't want the food stamps because you see how a cashier is treating someone who card wasn't even, it was perceived very wrong. And it's like, you're pushing the Black person down when we are those very people who stand around and pick the white community up. We don't just, although we're treated bad, we don't knock everyone down to try to get ahead. And I feel like that's something that the white community tends to do. Mm-hmm. To the Black community, to make, I guess, I'm not sure if it's making themselves feel good, because nothing's good about that. But why tear down somebody in your community when we could all be lifted up, when us in the Black community need to be rooted up?
They tear down us, but they also tear down themselves. Yeah. So the way they treat others is how they treat themselves as well. I will say that. And back to what you were saying about the cards and everything, it's always very hard to get people to want assistance as simple as like tutoring, because they perceive it as, oh, you think I'm dumb or you think I'm lesser than you, because no, I'm trying to give you a resource that will help you and elevate you in the end.
But it's kind of crazy because the same white people, they use those same resources on the back end, like how you did tutoring. I've seen so many, like, you know, it's just common. Everybody needs tutoring, no matter the subject. There's always a little room for improvement, a little help. But just going back to, you know, those who are on Section 8, those who are on housing benefits, everybody uses those resources, but it's so broadcasted in the Black community that we're the only ones using it, when those resources are there for all and they don't have a skin tone to it, but people tend to put a skin tone on it.
Yes, and I think a lot of this, statistically, white people make up a larger percent of the population. So of course, more of them would be on welfare, food stamps, Section 8. That's just, when you look at the numbers, that's just common sense. But even then, we can go back to the Reagan era and things in like the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, things like the welfare queen, and how you had, I forgot this lady's name, but she was a scammer. She was a white woman who pretended to be either Afro-Latina or just a racially ambiguous woman where you couldn't tell her race, and kind of just pegged her as Black, and she was essentially abusing the system for welfare and SNAP benefits. And then this became the poster child for all Black people on Section 8 welfare, to the point where Black people are like, no, we have to separate ourselves from this, so we're not going to use it. Or even how in the 70s rules were changed where it was, as a woman, you can't get your food stamps benefits if you have a man in the house. Or it's the caps of how much money that you make, because whether I have a job or not, I'm poor. Like the lights are off. My children are hungry. I'm poor, and you putting you have to say, oh, if you make even $1 over this specified amount, you no longer qualified. Where it's like, I still have bills. So
I still have bills.
So even Vic, this is a question for you as a mass communication major. How do you think media is often used to weaponize these social programs that are designed to help?
That's a great question, actually. I feel like we were studying this earlier. I believe in my media laws class, but media travels so fast and it's so poignant that it can capture so many different things in such a negative light, especially when it comes to Black people and the resources that we use. I think it was just instilled in the culture as well, in music, books, different things like that. So when you are repeatedly shown an image of yourself or somebody else in that light consistently over and over again, it's going to be a core belief that it's very hard to disprove. Mm-hmm. And so media was definitely used, especially because now that they're cutting different media programs like PBS and things like that, what are the kids gonna think now? Like, oh, these different programs that they're watching that are like not beneficial or not educational, that's what they're gonna view themselves as, because they see it repeatedly over and over and over again. So
yes. This is a question for everybody on the panel. How has propaganda eroded how we see the Black dollar?
I think that also propaganda kind of also goes in with stereotypes. Mm-hmm. I believe, what is the stereotype? Black people don't tip or something like that, but it's something like that.
That's a major one. I feel like everybody thinks that, but I feel like we have it has a lot to do with hospitality. Like, we look at the deeper meaning, and I know this is kind of like off key, but a little bit, but we kind of nothing was given to us for free. So I feel like we kind of look at it as just how we had to work for it, you kind of have to work for it, regardless of, you know, something so small as a tip. But it's like we've worked so hard to be able to get here now. We've worked so hard to be in classrooms, being able to get an education, being able to, you know, drink out of the same water fountain as someone. Like, we've worked so hard. So why is it that we should settle and backtrack when after all these years, you know, our fight, we fought the hard fight.
Yes.
So now that we're here today, why settle? Like, that's my thing. Like, why should we settle when we've put in the work, when we've, you know, so many, like, just like we're a prime example. I mean, even us as scholars, like, I'm a senior. I've worked so hard to get to where I am now. You're on SGA. You've worked so hard to get to where you are now. Vic, you're a junior class. Like, we've all put in the work. So why should we be able to settle and compromise when everybody else think, oh, maybe you shouldn't be here, but you don't know what I did to get here?
Exactly.
Clock it.
And I honestly have two examples to go back to the stereotypes and propaganda. One is a personal experience. Me, my dad, and my stepmother were out on a restaurant, and our service was really, really, like, I won't say horrible, but I would say it was very mediocre and just a little bit of attitude. But my dad paid the man, I believe, $20-$30 a tip, because he was like, I'm not gonna let them talk about us like we owe, like, people don't tip or anything like that. And I was like, wow. And I saw another story where the same kind of similar situation happens. Like, I'm not gonna let your negativity and your attitude impact how I live my life. So
Yes, to that point, from personal experience. Oh, we are at time.
We have to wrap it up.
Okay, one last question before one last question before we go. Got a little too into it. Do you think economics and Black liberation can coexist without each other?
no, they cannot.
Like, it's not possible.
We need economic stability in order to feed these different programs and feed these different initiatives in order for us to progress. So without economic stability, there's no way we can have a proper, strong liberation front.
Because, like, that's, if you think about it, that's the foundation of it all. Like, that's kind of how you manage and navigate through everything.
Awesome. Ooh. Thank y'all for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for having us. Thank you for your time. Dr. Ishmael, thank you for this invitation.
Thank you.
That was just so awesome. Now, I'm not dropping any hints at anybody, but I'm just saying that the Black is Back Coalition has a youth and student working group. I ain't dropping no hints. I'm just saying. And also, people need to know that that person right there that I'm pointing at is a dynamic educator, an educator for liberation. I mean, she's a fighter and an educator, Sister Betty Davis, and I know she does a lot of work also with the Youth and Student Working Group. I'm just saying, that's all. I'm gonna be saying it all throughout this time. That was such a wonder. That was one of the best panelists that we've had with the Black is Back Coalition. I just have to again thank them so much. Thank them for their inspiration. I thought it was fascinating. You have a question?
I just wanted to make a statement to their panel. The most educated group in America is the Black woman. This came out recently in statistics. The most educated group. The most educated group in America.
statistics have come up and shown is the Black working class woman. They're the ones who strive the most for the best educational credentials.
Wow, thank you for that.
That is,
I was just saying that that's
I've
been
heard
going on for
that
some
as
time.
well. I've heard that as well. And we're going, we're going to continue on now with the rest of the presentation with hearing from the folks in New Orleans. And so our next presenter is going to be Mona Green. Is Mona? Oh, video. Okay, Mona Green. Oh, she's not online. Okay, so we're gonna go. I think do we have Fox Rich? Do we have anyone representing Fox Rich? Well, oh, I know, but I thought it was two people. One. Okay. You can't believe everything you read. Is Fox Rich here? Okay. Q&A? Okay. Right, now we're going to present Sister Zayi. Sister Kenge just said we should move to the Black community control of police.
Yeah, that sounds good. So at this
Uhuru.
time, we will have Dr. Matsemela Odom come up. Dr. Matsemela Odom is the international president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. He also writes for the Burning Spear newspaper and co-hosts the Black Power Talks podcast for Black Power 96. Matsemela is also a professor in Africana Studies who has published on a variety of issues pertaining to African liberation and revolutionary culture. Uhuru Matsemela.
Uhuru.
We just found out that Dr. Matsemela Odom has somebody else representing him doing the report with the Black community control of police working group.
Uhuru. Yes,
Zayi.
how are you? Uhuru. Yes, how are you?
Uhuru. So there's an echo. There's an echo. All right, Uhuru. I'm not. All right, Uhuru. I'm not. There's a bit of an echo. What's this echo? Can you all? Is there an echo? Can you all hear the echo? If not, then that's fine.
It's gone now.
Okay, Uhuru. So I'm Matsemela Odom, International President of International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. I'm also the chair of the Black Community Control of the Police Working Group. Right now, presenting alongside me, I want to welcome up Comrade Hakim Rutledge. If Hakim is there, Hakim, come on up to the stage. All right, so as Hakim gets his presentation in place, I want to introduce the Black Community Control of the Police Working Group. I want to direct you all to the Black is Back Coalition.org. There you can find sample petitions, a banner, and other information that's needed to make Black Community Control of Police a household word. I really want to salute the comrade Hakim and other comrades in Florida right now that are taking Black controlled police, building Black controlled police working groups, as well as or rallying the community from Central Florida all the way up to North Florida underneath the call of Black community control of the police. What we understand in the Black is Back Coalition, as well as the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, is that Black community control of police is an anti-colonial demand, that the police represent a domestic military force, and the response to that needs to be self-determination for African people. So what Comrade Hakim is going to present on, I felt it was important for the Comrade Hakim, an organizer with the Uhuru Movement, out of the U.S. South, to present on a motion taking place with BCCP in the U.S. South. Like I said, as an anti-colonial demand that we want everyone to get involved with. So once again, you can go to blackisbackcoalition.org. You can email us at info@blackisbackcoalition.org. We can help your organization create Black community control of the police banners, petitions, and other material needed to make this a democratic demand for the people. All social movements are guided by a revolutionary demand. Well, sorry, take a step back and say that the important of a slogan is that a slogan should guide your social movement. A slogan should tell us what we're fighting for, and most importantly, it should center self-determination of African people solving African problems, and that's what Black community control of the police does. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Comrade Hakim. Uhuru.
Uhuru, everyone, and thank you for the introduction, Comrade President. My name is Hakim Jihad. I come to you from Gainesville, from the southern region of the African People's Socialist Party. And can we get some help from IT getting the presentation on the projector? Thank you, Kabula. So this is going to be a Black community control of the police event. We're gonna contrast the APSP's position on policing to INPDUM. We're going to see the difference and similarities in tactics and ultimately see how it's ultimately the same strategy. Next slide, please. So founded in 1972 by Chairman Omala Yashatella, the African People's Socialist Party, the APSP, emerged in a time of intense political repression to keep the Black liberation movement alive. So for some context, this is the time of J. Edgar Hoover. This is the time of COINTELPRO and all of these different movements that the state mobilized against us in order to cripple us, to kill our momentum, and to ultimately keep us back in our position of disempowerment. So the APSP was built from grassroots organizations of workers, students, and organizers across Florida. And the APSP champions African working class leadership. It fights for self-determination and builds global Black solidarity. Next slide, please. So two different organizations that you're going to hear me talk about today. One is the African People's Socialist Party, which I just explained. The other is INPDUM, which is a brother organization of APSP. It's the International Democratic Uhuru Movement. It's a mass organization that was founded in 1991. It organizes the African working class for liberation, just like the APSP does. And it's about leading campaigns for reparations, political prisoners, and against police terror. Next slide, please. So what we're going to go through in this presentation, we're going to explore the historical roots of policing and modern models, going to define what community control of the police means in theory and practice, trace the evolution and historical demands for Black community control of the police, examine modern examples of community control of the police, and see what is next. What is it that we can do? Next slide, please. But in order to do any of that, we need to first talk about colonialism. Settler colonialism is when people from another country come onto someone else's land, take it by force, and build their own society on top of it. They don't just rule over the original people, they try to replace them, control their lives, steal their resources, and erase their culture, all to keep power and wealth for themselves. This is something that we can point to numerous examples of in Africa and South America, in the Middle East and Philistine right now. And it's also something that can be applied at home as well. And that's domestic colonialism. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Next slide, please. So Malcolm X, he often framed colonialism as the root of racism and oppression, connecting the struggles of African people in the US to liberation movements in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. He understood that colonialism was tied to imperialism and that it is a global system where Western powers extract resources, labor, and wealth from oppressed nations. It's enforced and maintained by violence. And Malcolm pointed out that that colonial rule depends on the police, it depends on the military and legal systems in order to keep the oppressed in place and to keep everything legal. One of his famous statements from a 1964 speech was, quote, "You can't have capitalism without racism. The same interests that have colonized our people in Africa have colonized you and me right here in America." Next slide, please. Frantz Fanon also contributed theory to this thought that the police were armed forces of the occupation, and he wrote that in his famous book, The Wretched of the Earth. He also said that the policeman and the soldier, by their immediate presence and their frequent and direct action, maintained contact with the native and advised him by means of rifle butts, revolver blows, and prison cells to behave himself. Next slide, please. So the historical roots of policing. So when we think about policing here in the United States, we have to keep in mind that our policing is based off of Anglo-Saxon law, which was rooted in the protection of private property. And you add that with the American settler colonial society, which started from slave patrols. And so from its earliest roots, American policing drew from two primary contrasting origins: English-style local enforcement and Southern slave patrols. In colonial New England, local communities organized constables by day and volunteer night watchmen by night, charged with maintaining order, patrolling streets, and responding to fires and disturbances. Simultaneously, slave patrols emerged in the southern colonies in South Carolina as early as 1704 as organized groups of armed white men enforcing laws over enslaved black residents. Their duties including capturing fugitives, suppressing assembly or revolts, breaking up gatherings, searching homes, and imposing terror to enforce compliance. And below the picture of the badges, you see an enlightening quote that really gives you some context into the political time of day we're in now, but also what was the historical thought at the time. This is an oath. The North Carolina Slave Patrollers oath is as follows: "I do swear that I will, as a searcher for guns, swords, and other weapons among the slaves in my district, faithfully, and as I privately can, discharge the trust reposed in me as the law districts to the best of my power, so help me God." But nothing in this is about actually helping people or keeping us safe. Next slide, please. It was always meant to keep us subjected violently through lynchings and extrajudicial violence. It is all the same colonial violence. So police killings today are what you see when you go on your phone. How many times a year do we look at our phone and see young brothers, sisters, mothers being killed by the police? This is the same thing. Accountability is impossible under the set of laws that we have right now, under colonial law, period. So the struggle for Black community control is quite literally a struggle for self-defense. Next slide, please. So the role of the police, you can see based off these two images that it has not really changed much in 200 years. The police are not neutral enforcers of law and order, but instruments of state power, historically developed to protect property, suppress resistance, and maintain racial and colonial hierarchies. The U.S. state exists to protect the white ruling class. Police murders like Ayanna Jones, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, they're not accidents, but acts of colonial domination. This is not something that more training would fix. So when we hear about these stop cop cities that pop up in Atlanta, that pop up in Kansas City, all over the country under the pretense that it's to make policing safer, we know that this is completely not true. It would be doing something it was not designed to do. So state violence is systemic, not fixable by body cams or training. Next slide, please. So then we have corporate control of policing and the private interest essentially invading community safety. And a prime example of this is Lexipol. And that's a private company that sells ready-made policy manuals to police departments nationwide. Their focus is on reducing liability risks and avoiding litigation. Nothing about serving the public. It's controlled by ex-cops, now owned by a Wall Street private equity firm. This is directly related to Black community control of the police because local communities don't write police policies. Corporations and cops do. And these policies focus on reducing lawsuits, not protecting anyone. It keeps the colonial state in control, even when communities demand accountability. Next slide, please. So in the APSP, we have a 14-point platform. 2 of these points are particularly relevant to what we're discussing now, and that is numbers 6 and 8. So we want the immediate and unconditional release of all Black people who are presently locked down in U.S. prisons, period. We want the immediate withdrawal of the U.S. police from our oppressed and exploited communities. Next slide. And then there's INPDUM's demands. They have a revolutionary national democratic program, and there are 2 points of that program that are relevant to what we're discussing today. And that is number 16, that we demand African community control of the police in our oppressed and exploited communities in the domestic colonies of North and South America, the Caribbean, and Europe. Number 8, we demand the immediate withdrawal of the terroristic police and military troops from the African community and their replacement with African liberation forces, who struggle in defense of our community against our oppression, demonstrate their loyalty to our community and their willingness to serve in its interest. Next slide, please. So just a couple of the many, many faces behind the reasons for community control, Black community control of the police. One of them, Sister Alicia Jones, who was a 60-year-old African woman. She was sentenced to life plus 30 years for nonviolent drug charges. This severe sentence was imposed under habitual offender laws, which disproportionately impact individuals with prior convictions, regardless of the nature or severity of those offenses. And this is especially true for us as Africans who live in these communities that are over-policed, that are underdeveloped. The material conditions are manufactured in such a way in which we are bound to come into violent confrontation with the police. So on May 16th, 2025, Tyrone Bartley, an unarmed African father in Pine Hills, was killed by Orange County deputies during a SWAT raid. He was not even the target, but he was shot within seconds. His family and community demand justice and call for African community control of the police. Next slide, please. So what is community control of the police? Well, you can really break it down into 3 different criteria. One of them is oversight. The community, not the city or the police department, has the final say over how policing is carried out in Black neighborhoods. A Black Community Control Commission elected by Black residents will set policing policies and priorities, not companies like Lexipol, not private interests, not the ruling class, but us. It would also define training standards and hiring requirements, determine the structure and operation of the police force in their communities. And then accountability. The commission has the power to hire and fire officers, including the police chief himself, launch independent investigations into police misconduct, enforce a disciplinary action without interference from state or federal authorities. No reliance on body cameras, DOJ investigations, or external review boards. And then budget control. And with this, the commission will establish and control the entire policing budget for the community. So no more policing getting more development than our own public school systems. No more under-resourcing our community just so that we can fund the very same people who are going to put us in jail for creating the problem. Redirect funds away from the militarization and repression. Invest in community safety, conflict resolution, and prevention-based models rooted in self-determination. Next slide, please. And so we have to contrast this with what we hear in a lot of the more liberal non-African spaces when we talk about, or when they talk about defunding the police, and how does that compare to community control, particularly Black community control of the police? Well, in the defund the police narrative, power stays with the state. The goal to reduce police budgets is not always met. Oftentimes they will collaborate with the mayor of whatever city. The method is usually gradual, nothing immediate, nothing that we may even see in our lifetime. The scope is often citywide or nationwide, but it's not specific to the Black community needs. It's not really rooted in a Black agenda. And so what they do, the reform tools that they use are what we already know of: body cam, civilian review boards, implicit bias training, etc. Nothing that is sufficient to addressing our dilemmas as African people here. However, community control of the police, power is transferred to the Black community through elected commissions. We would abolish colonial police power over Black communities and build community-based authority, direct democratic control over hiring and firing, training, standards, and budgets. We would be focused specifically on self-determination for African communities. And we see the police as a colonial occupying force that must be replaced with people's power. We do not see the police as legitimate arbiters of justice. Total structure, replacement through grassroots power and authority. Okay. So the Black Panther demand for, oh, I'm sorry, next slide, please. So Black Panther Party demands for community control of the police. This is where we have gotten a lot of inspiration from. Like I mentioned, the APSP was kind of created in the turbulent time after the party had already kind of waned in popularity due to COINTELPRO attacks against it. The Black Panther Party, through its National Committee to Combat Fascism, led one of the first U.S. campaigns for community control of the police, proposed a Berkeley ballot initiative to dismantle the citywide police department and create 3 autonomous community-run forces. Each force would be governed by elected civilian oversight boards and require officers to live in the communities that they served. Called for real community-led investigations, replacing internal police probes with civilian review boards with full authority. Secured broad grassroots support and thousands of signatures across racial lines, but lost by just 1% at the polls. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, let me, okay. So I'll go ahead and stop there, but I just wanted to say that when it comes to creating legislation that can empower us to create community control boards for the police, we have to introduce resolutions, but we have to make sure that our civic engagement is always connected to the grassroots work that we're doing. Thank you.
We're getting ready to do the political prisoner panel. Would everyone come on up that know that they're supposed to be a part of that panel? Brittany? This is our last panel for today. Zai?
Uhuru. So I can go ahead and read Comrade Brittany's bio.
Okay.
Brittany Hutchinson, also known as Free Spirited Bro, began her revolutionary journey in 2021 when she became a member of Spirit of Mandela. Around the same time, the 2021 We Charge Genocide Tribunal was also being held. From there, she dove in head first, dedicating her life to the work of organizing in the community with the people. She is most recently a member of the New York City chapter of the Jericho movement, working for the freedom of all political prisoners. For Brittany. And she will be accompanied by 2 other comrades, I believe. We will have Robert Hillary King of the Angola 3, and then Kazi Toure. And then for those that are in the room, if we can shift the camera just a little bit, so we get everybody in the frame.
while we're waiting for our other panelists to join us, you know, I just wanted to just share briefly. Brittany, would you like to come and just share why you are part of this panel? Why don't you come on? You know, prison, you know, this is very serious here in Louisiana. You know, the state penitentiary here is named Angola, which was known all over the world as one of the most bloodiest and the worst prison in the whole world. So, you know, I want to share this because when I was told this, I'm telling you, it was sad. But they said they named the prison Angola because when the slaves would come in on the port or down here on the river, and they would be sold on the block, they would cry out and say, you know, they want to go back home. So the mockery was, yeah, you gonna go home all right. And home for them coming from Africa was Angola. So they named the prison Angola to be a mockery, that when they would cry out and say they want to go home, you're going to go home all right, which Angola is setting up on. You know, I went out, you know, I've been out there several times, and you go way back up in there, and it's like it was built on a swamp with alligators and crocodiles. And, you know, growing up as a little girl, you know, if you misbehaved in the house, my grandmother would say, you don't want to wind up in Angola. You know, so that was a fear and a threat. You know, they used it as a threat, but it was a terrorizing fear that when you would say Angola, and you would think about the rattlesnake and the moccasins and the crocodiles and the alligators, and you know that Angola sits on. And now it's none other than a hellhole where a lot of our loved ones are out there suffering, that we find out 20, 30, 40 years later that they never should have been there in the first place. So I want Brittany to come and tell us a little bit about why she's a part of this political prisoners, you know, free them all.
Peace, peace, comrades. I don't know how to cut this bit. You can just put it up close. Okay. Peace, peace, comrades. Uhuru. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good evening. I want to thank the comrades for having me, and I'm grateful to be a member of the Black is Back Coalition Political Prisoners Working Group. I'm here to speak on the behalf of certain comrades, as far as Mumia Abu Jamal, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, and just wanting to do my part to be an extension of their voices, of the actions that are needed to support them, and to learn from elders and comrades, to know more about what it is I could do and what it is I can share with comrades who are also in their early 30s or even younger than me, in advocating for elders who have, you know, sacrificed years of their life. Again, I'm, you know, in my early 30s, so, you know, finding out that there are human beings that have been behind the wall of a death camp for most, if not all, of my existence, and then some, 20 years, it's inhumane. There's no true way to describe how that makes me feel, you know, outside of literally being sick to my stomach, but then to imagine, you know, what they had to do or how they had to get through those years. So, yeah. Oh, Lord.
sharing his story and what positive you want to Your mic is in the seat. Oh, okay. Everybody should have a mic in their seat.
You hear me? Man, can you?
Yeah, we hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. My name. Thank you, sister. Thank you, and thank you, Uhuru, African People's Socialist Party, for putting this this meeting together, and for bringing up the subjects and things, the issues that we need to talk about and address. I'm a former political prisoner. I got I got my eye teeth cut back in the late 60s, early 70s, out in Oakland, dealing with the Panther Party and whatnot. And I'll tell you, like when I first got out there, it was like August of '69, and 3 months later, Fred was killed in December in Chicago. 6 months later, Jonathan was killed in Marin County Courthouse, trying to free up brothers that was locked up. And George was supposed to be there. And, you know, a year later, George himself was killed on August 21st, a couple of days ago, was the anniversary of his death. And after two weeks later, Attica went up. You know, Attica rebelled, and 43 dead there. So that's how I come into the struggle, and learning about the struggle, and learning that we have to fight back. We have to, you know, we're not going to get, this country here was born on violence. It knows nothing but it. And everything we've organized and everything we've done, like from Rosewood to Black Wall Street in Oklahoma, they come in and crush it down to Philadelphia, dropping a bomb on Move Family and whatnot. They come in and crush it down. And so the movement is like, you know, all the different issues and things that we have is like spokes in the wheel. And you have to have all the spokes in the wheel to make it move smoothly, make the bike run. And if you leave out a spoke, the wheel starts to get wobbly. It doesn't run right. The bike don't work right. So to leave out political prisoners, the people who have been fighting and sacrificing their life, you know, because a lot of people have been left for 40, 50 years in there, man, you know, and Kamal Siddiqui still locked up and suffering. Mumia's still suffering in there, you know, and you can't get another generation to step up if you leave the ones that sacrificed before, you know, and we don't have a movement to be snatching up these pigs and correcting them to the point where they'll back up, you know, they'll back up. If I mean, I'm a chess player. If you ain't threatening my king, man, I ain't paying no attention to you, you know, and that's the way they look at us, the same way, you know, ain't nobody banging back on them. They're gonna keep on moving in the direction that they go. I'm glad that the brother put that presentation together about the police just a few minutes ago, and I'm going to turn it over. This brother here, when I was doing a panel in for critical resistance in New York City, and this brother come in walking down. He'd been in a hole longer than a lot of the people who was alive in the audience. You know, and sister was just talking about Angola prison. He was there in Angola. So I'm gonna let him talk about that. Okay. Oh, this is brother.
You referring to me?
Brother
Okay.
King Wilkerson.
Hello, greetings. Nice to be here. Anyway, I'm probably the oldest person here. I'm probably the oldest person here. And yeah, I'm probably the oldest person here, the oldest person here. And I thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I had no knowledge initially that all of this was going on, but I'm glad that Kazi came down and he invited me. And yeah, what he said, we met about 25 years ago when I first was released from prison from Angola. Without having to say it, I'm like you probably know, I'm one of the free member of the Angola Three. Matter of fact, the only surviving member of the Angola Three. Yeah. I wish I wasn't the only survivor. I wish Harmon and Albert were here as well, but they aren't. Harmon Wallace, and Albert Woodfox, we combined made up the members of Angola 3. However, we always want to make sure and emphasize, and our emphasis was placed on the fact that it wasn't just the Angola 3, who had been tortured, who had been framed and held in prison for decades. It wasn't just us, it was other people who also, but we just were fortunate enough to get the recognition. And we got that recognition, and with people like Kazi, who had also been in that position. Once I was released from Angola, I did a lot of traveling, and he was one of the first person that I met, and we've been traveling mentally ever since. And so anyway, I became a member of the Black Panther Party, but I became a member of the Black. Don't get me wrong. I'm a World War II baby. So that means I saw it. I've been through it. I've seen it. But I also have seen the change. Some of the names that have been made, you heard some of the names, and with especially like people like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and of course, maybe not necessarily in that order, in the Black Panther Party, these are the people who are my heroes because they emphasized freedom for all. They emphasized power to the people, which means not necessarily one person or two person or one color, but power to the people, period. They emphasize democracy. And that is where my faith, that's where I have adopted the concept of democracy, which means people power. And it is not contradicting anything that you've heard here today. It's just that I'm an old World War II baby, and I have seen the elevation of things. I remember during my time, during my day growing up, I saw things that you wouldn't see this day. So you have to excuse me. Some people have to excuse me. The younger folks will have to excuse me if I emphasize some of the things that I have experienced in my day. It means this, that no matter, we can move the needle, and we have moved the needle big time. I was born in 42. So, and from 42 to now, the 2025, it was a hell of a difference, but it is not where we want to be at. Where we want to be at, we talk about a democracy, okay? Let's hold the world true to democracy is colorblind. Let's face it. It's colorblind. It is not black, white, yellow, green, purple. It is colorblind. It means people power. And unless we get up a democracy that embraces all people, that includes all people, it is not a democracy. They have been calling this, but it's a democracy for a long time. It's been a hypocrisy. Malcolm X realized it was hypocrisy. The Black Panther Party finally, and even Martin Luther King, they recognized the hypocrisy that was involved in it. And of course, like I say, look, when Malcolm went to Mecca, Malcolm at one time, you understood, he was the Nation of Islam. But when he went to Mecca, you know, and he saw people of all walks of life. And I felt what Malcolm felt in my age. I didn't feel it at first, and I not despise him, but I looked at him when he said, embrace all people. But you cannot embrace democracy, or you cannot select democracy without embracing everybody. You cannot do it. It is a contradiction. Democracy means people power, and it's colorless. And I think this is where we have to gravitate. We have moved the needle, the barometer. We move it forward. I think we have to continue to move it forward. But our quest for freedom, of course, we are responsible for our own freedom. You know, no one else, you know, is responsible. But collectively, we could achieve freedom much more if we could get an accumulation of people who believe like we do, that this is democracy is colorblind, and make them follow what democracy is. It's a Greek term. Some of you more know what democracy is much better than I do. It is a Greek term. It means people power, you know. And it's not police power. It's not politician power. You know, it's not white people power. It's power, period. But anyway, look, I just wanted to give you an idea where my head's at. I am striving for, among other things, and I will work with all people, but I'm striving for the concept of democracy to be applied. The application of democracy, because if we achieve that, and by the way, it is not democracy. People need to understand democracy is a process. It is not a conclusion. I'll never say I can live to be 84 more years. I'll probably never see democracy. But that don't mean other people won't see. They won't see the elevation of the world get better. They will see that people collectively, colorblind, not they got some people believe that, and rightly so, that we'll never be a colorblind society. I don't believe that. I do not believe people cannot not be a not colorblind society. It's a matter of education. I'm going to say this again, and I know I got to emphasize. I grew up in Algiers, you know, and I am telling you, I went to school. There were, if I could tell you the conditions in which I lived at that time, in the 50s, in the early 50s, the late 40s, you know, up to the point when I recognized what the Black Panther Party did, what Malcolm was doing, what Martin Luther King was doing. And I also noticed that when they said democracy, what they were talking about, it was people power. When they felt it, it was people power, and it was collectively people power. It was a power that was going, man. And I am telling you, Malcolm X said, when he was in Mecca, again, I know I repeat myself, but he felt. When he was in Mecca, he felt, and you know what? Along the way, I felt some of the things Malcolm felt. Because I have done a lot of traveling in my life, and I'm going to tell you the truth. I have as many white comrades, and brown comrades, and yellow that I have white. I'm black, I mean. I do have it. I've experienced this, and I have to be true. You know, I have to be true. Okay, let me give the mic away. I think I'm taking too much time. You know, and let me get the mic away. And I think right now I'm overriding a lot of things, but this is what I want. You needed to know how I feel. I'm being truthful as I am. That's where I am. I believe in people power. I believe in democracy. And I believe the quest for freedom will go on. And I do think this, if we focus on the fact that democracy is colorblind and everyone grab hold to this, I think we could change this whole world. We could make a whole difference. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm rushed, but I got to give the mic up because I'm giving so much time. Okay, there you go. All right. Yeah, well, I'm giving my time. All
right. My name is Earl Higgins. Y'all heard a brief. I'll say this. I too believe in democracy. Yeah, me too. My mother was real dark skinned, and if you saw my dad, you would say that's a white man. So I had no choice but to believe in the two views. But what shattered that view of home life was when I left that safety of mom and dad that treated me as the person, the human that I was. Again, my mother was real dark skinned, and my dad, he looked like a white dude, and it was off-putting to a lot of the kids in the neighborhood. They thought my daddy was adopted. I'm gonna say that because it was a funny dynamic in my house, you know. But I too believe in the concept of that. I'm right now. I'm kind of like starstruck. I'm privileged to be sitting on a panel with these heavyweights. Cause listen, hear me out. Hear me out. I got to say this because I understand the power and the standing on other shoulders. I understand that. I really do. And this is not lost on me that I am not here by my own faculties. It's because the people that came before me. I recognize that. I honor that the work that y'all done. I don't get to have the voice that I had in prison. And it's wild how this thing works, is that my journey started in prison of organizing, not knowing that at some point I would connect with an organization that started in prison. And then right now, in this moment, I'm sitting on a panel with a guy and some other people that, you see how the circle works though? You see how it works that it does, but I don't get to hear without their loss of freedom, so to speak. So right now I'm just taking this all in. This is a powerful moment for me to be in such strong presence. So with that, I'm gonna shut my mouth and just absorb right now.
Uhuru, everyone. I'm Charles Davis. I'm from New Orleans as well. And I'd like to just be thankful and honored that I'm here with this organization and being a part of it. To be able to try and move things forward with our situation here. There's been political prisoners in jail for too long, and it's time for that to end. It's time for that to end. You see, we look at, we were trained and we saw for ourselves back in the day that if you resist the colonizer, then somehow you become a target. Okay, you resist colonization and have a different opinion, looking to vote a different type of way for a different organization, all of a sudden you become a target. And that is how colonialism works. It works like that, but we have to keep pushing on, learn from our lessons of the past so we could stay organized, get more organized, and handle our business like a well-oiled machine. The more we organize, the more voices that we have on our team, we could make a big difference. So as you all know, right now in New Orleans, it is going to be more political prisoners added to the list right now as we speak. And yeah, so it's all across the country, all across this state. State legislatures are putting new restrictions on voting, gerrymandering districts, and stuff like that to keep the voices of the working class silent. So we must keep an eye on that, stay focused on that, and thank you so much for your time.
I want to, I guess, take the time to raise awareness around Curb Fest. A Curb Fest in New York will be happening October 18th, and Houston Curb Fest, I believe, is October 24th to the 26th. It is an initiative to continue raising awareness. It's a different spin on trying to raise awareness around the existence of political prisoners by being on the curb to act out, to show out on the curb, to reach out to the neighborhood instead of being in a building where nobody can see us. So yes, Curb Fest. I would look it up online. I don't know the site by heart, but if you Google Curb Fest, it'll come up. And I encourage folks to attend a Curb Fest in their city, or to create one if there isn't one where you are. Curb Fest, CURBFEST.
We just, this is the last panel for today, but we wanted to see if anybody had any, we wanted to give about 5 minutes for Q&A before we close it out, and then we was gonna have Kasi give us some final words. So is there any questions for this panel?
Is it anybody online got a question?
Does anyone online have a question?
And also something I should have announced earlier, but I will surely announce it tomorrow. If you have a question online, please put it in the Q&A because we can follow the Q&A. We can't follow the chat.
You know, I have a question, and anyone on the panel can answer this question. What are some of the things that that you feel that should be happening inside of the prisons right now in regards to organizing?
Well, I think one of the main things that should be happening is the Burning Spear newspaper needs to be there.
Wow.
It needs to be there. We got to get those papers into the hands of every prison.
Yes.
Male and female and juvenile.
I unite with that,
facility.
my brother. Thank you, Brother Charles, for that. Thank you so much.
Seattle would really appreciate you saying
Mhm. Anyone else have anything else they would like to add to that? Go right ahead, Earl.
I would just go along with the brother says, making those links and building, inside, outside, so that the prisoners feel that they have back out here, and then they can move. If they feel that they have back, they can move better. They can organize better. They can shut things down better if they know that they've got support, outside support to help them,
Okay. All right, Brother Earl.
One of the things, and this was, I wish I had when I was in there and I used to open my big mouth. I wish they had other brothers that would just not fear the idea of going to another part of the prison to be closed down. I wish they had more people in there like that. You're in prison, and this was just my thought that if I'm in prison, I can't be afraid to be free. And I believe that's where that was coming from a lot of brothers. The notion that if I stand up, I'm free. And I'm speaking to the slave mentality. If I speak up, I'm going to be freed. And to some people, that's a scary thought that I will have to live on my own abilities and my own faculty. So I wish it was more of that inside of prison. That's just me, though.
Wow. Anyone else want to comment on that?
I just wanted to say that speaking of the Burning Spear, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I saw a campaign going on where if somebody is incarcerated and they want a subscription to the Burning Spear, that they would be provided the subscription. I know I saw something like people can also donate to that so they can give subscriptions to
a newspaper.
They don't have to worry about coming out and paying for it with their own money.
Well, we're out of time. Okay, Sister Betty, let's take one more question. And then
I have a question.
There's questions online.
Oh, okay.
But before that, people can Google National Jericho to find out more about the history of the Black Panther Party and the origin of our political prisoners and the struggle for human rights of the 60s, National Jericho, also the Spirit of Mandela and the People's Senate. All of these organizations work toward correcting and supporting the struggle for freedom.
Right.
And I would also like to add to what Sister Betty just said, that join up with the Black is Back Coalition, because we have political working groups that would connect you with all of those that she just mentioned.
Remind everyone, this is also Black August too, which is a celebration for political prisoners as well. So thank you all.
And we have questions online, you said?
Yes. We've got one question online from an anonymous attendee. But the question is, who funds HBCU? Designs and approves all of the curriculum.
Designs and approves all of the curriculum.
I think that's a question for the professor, not anyone on the panel.
Who funds HBCU?
Very easy one.
Microphone?
The HBCU.
Microphone.
I think that these are final questions for the end of the day here. We're going to let the professor answer that question.
In terms of this question, at any university, the faculty are in charge of the curriculum. It doesn't come from the top, it comes from the bottom. So we control what we put in and gets approved, et cetera. In terms of who funds HBCUs, if you're a public institution, you get public funds. But again, generally, you don't get as much as the larger institutions. We're a private institution, so we rely on private funds. We rely on tuition. We're tuition driven here at Dillard University. So, yeah.
Okay.
Say one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'll wrap it up. But one of my students who's wrapping up law school just sent me a text message with a citation that only 26% of African Americans in this country have a degree. So we have more incarcerated people than those that have degrees. That's what we need to work on.
More incarcerated people than we have people that have degrees.
By design.
Yeah.
By design.
Yes, and that's been cool.
Here's Sister Betty.
And that's been coming down for a long time.
Since they determine who will go to prison based on failing the 3rd grade reading scores, you know this is a colonial decision to incarcerate them rather than educate them. This is why people must control all of the institutions in their colony. That's what this group of people in the Black is Back, African People's Socialist Party, and INPDUM stand for. These dual and contending powers until you have a real revolution.
Right.
Lisa, we're done. That's
Yes,
it.
I have a question. I have a question. I don't know if this is working, but I have a question for all of us. You know, it's like we had a tribunal a couple of years ago. Jericho did, and out of that tribunal came the Spirit of Mandela and the People's Senate, and we, you know, it's not okay. And out of that organizing,
hold it up closer.
Okay, out of that organizing came, you know, the push for building the People's Senate. I don't know how many people have checked it out, but we need to pull together all of our organizations that's doing work. That's what I was talking about earlier about the spokes in the wheel. You know, because we got a little fractions here, we got some over there, we got Mumir's people in Philly. We got, you know, we need to all pull together, you know, to build together. You know, this fighting these people is not an easy thing, and soon after Sister Sada was liberated, you know, in '79, armed clandestine movement took a beating. You know, in the '80s, we lost 14 Puerto Rican FLM freedom fighters. We lost 12 members from the RAF. In May 19th movement, we lost 8 members from New York 8 and 8 members from the United Freedom Front. That's what group I belong to, is United Freedom Front, and 5 members of Black Liberation Army. And that nobody is picking up. You know, I don't like forums like this. I don't like talking with cell phones around. I don't like this internet stuff. You know, if we gonna organize, we gotta organize ourselves without all this stuff around us. Why, you know, why let them know what we're doing while we're doing it? You know, so my question is, why do we, as a people, if we've seen since, you know, the last 160 years, we haven't gotten treated as human beings in this country, why do we still want to be a part of it? Why ain't we organizing our own shit? You know? Building our own armies and
You
shit.
want me to answer that question for you? Is that a question? Because I can give you an answer. Right. Is that a question? I can give you an answer. First of all, I want the people to know is that we ain't scared.
That's right. We ain't scared.
hiding.
We ain't scared.
We ain't running. And we ain't ducking and dodging no more. If they have been emboldened, you know, we got a president right now that's just doing whatever he want to do. In your face.
Right.
So I'm just here to say it ain't no why no more. It's that we are doing it. We are doing it. You in the right place at the right time for the right reason to see that we are doing it. That's what Black is Back Coalition is all about. Yep. We are doing it. And that's why you have been in this building here today, because you are a part of us doing it. So therefore, we ain't running, we ain't hiding, we ain't looking for the deacon of the fence no more, because we are bold and we're bad and Black is back.
Although we'll take a deacons of defense.
Now, and that go for whoever don't like it.
Right.
Because we gonna use the social media. We gonna blast it. They watching us live stream right now. The whole world is watching us.
Everyone, I want to remind, because I know that we are here. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Ishmael Ashraf and Tia Shug so much, because they are with Dillard University's the School for the Center for Racial Justice. But we're here. I know we have time limits. We have time limits. They've been gracious enough to sponsor us. And I almost want to sing that Carol Burnett song. There's a time we have to say so long and all that, but we really.
Professor, we're offline now, Lisa.
I don't know.
We want to take a group picture with everybody before we leave. He wants that for his the Center for Racial Justice, and we'll take one tomorrow
10
too.
o'clock.
Yeah, everybody on the stage.
Tomorrow, 10
everybody
o'clock,
in the room on the
10 o'clock
stage.
a.m.
Everybody in the room. Tia, we need Tia.
Yes, 10 o'clock tomorrow. Yes, 10 o'clock tomorrow.
Oh man, I think I accidentally touched something.
Professor, Jesse gonna take the picture. Tia, where's Tia?
You can't get up. You can't get up here, bro.
Come on, baby, get up.